Thank you to our big sponsors, M&D Drilling out of Waller, Texas, Impact Strength and Performance, and America Undefeated. We appreciate your sponsorship for this episode.
Hey, also, we want to thank everybody for having the opportunity to watch it once we get it online and on our social media platforms. Also want to shout out to my favorite bourbon company, Angel's Envy, as we sit here and enjoy some Angel's Envy bourbon. And I want to shout out to my main man, Wong, who his parents are immigrants from Vietnam, and he is an absolute stud, one of the greatest human beings I've ever been around on the planet. And I'm absolutely blessed to be a part of this group today as we talk about life lessons, leadership, politics, religion, and everything you can think of. So let's have some fun today with some great men. Wong?
I love it. I appreciate the shout out, Coach. And let's go with a shout out to you. 25 years, United States Navy. Thank you for your service to our great country. You're an immigrant. You actually left there with your mom carrying football style.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes,
Getting onto that boat. So
yes, I was destined to be a football coach when
hey,
my mom
absolutely, 100%. Right? So
yes, absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah. Hey, and I want to talk about the men we have in this group today real quick. And first, I want to talk about a great friend of mine, OU graduate, Oklahoma Sooner, dominated the gridiron here in the great state of Oklahoma. Also played 9 years in the NFL with a couple teams. And again, he is a large, amazing human being. And we're glad to have him here today. And that's Jimmy Wilkerson.
Absolutely. Good friend of mine as well. Met him through you, met him on Twitter. And I like to introduce Chief Justin Wood. At the time I met him off of Twitter as well. And at the time we met, he was the youngest chief in all of the United States of America, of all Indian nations. He happened to be the chief of the Sac and Fox Nation at that time. It's going to be an awesome podcast. He is an amazing human being.
Yeah, and also I've also thankfully met Chief Justin Wood through Wong, and you just got to get to know him a little bit, and you can tell that he's impactful. Also, our fifth person on this group will be Mahala Wiggins. Grew up in the great state of New York. He's got some amazing stories about his time through 9/11 and the things that went on in New York. He was also the former assistant strength coach at OU under Bob Stoops. Another great human being, and I'm excited to get us together and talk about those things that hopefully all our viewers want to hear. So without further ado, I do want to say real quick, I got a book in front of me, and I want to shout out to this amazing young lady, Tulsi Gabbard, for Love of Country. And the courage she has and the things she's demonstrated in the last few weeks leading up to the last few months. So we thank her greatly. But without further ado, I'm gonna bring in the guys.
Yep. All right. So guys, thank you so much for joining Senior Chief and myself for this conversation. It's an open mic night, so nothing is off the table. Everything is on the table. If you don't feel like answering questions or if you don't want to join in on a conversation, respect to you as well. So let's have a great
Or
conversation.
we're going to call you Saul, one or the other. It depends how you want to roll with it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a snowflake situation, but it's all okay. It's all right.
If it's cool, we're going to start over from the left where Jimmy is, and then we'll move kind of left to right and kind of get introductions from everybody so our viewers know who we are.
Hi, I'm Jimmy Wilkerson. I'm a former NFL player of 9 years. I also went to the University of Oklahoma, where I played defensive end. Won a national championship my freshman year, and I now coach at Carlisle. We're two-time state champs.
You guys could have given me a lifted seat like Kamala had. That would have been really helpful sitting over here next to Jimmy Wilkerson.
So much risk.
My name is Justin Wood, former chief at the Sac and Fox Nation, former state representative. Born and raised in Shawnee, Oklahoma here, and my wife Olivia and 4 kids, and we're just having a great time with life. Excited to be here with you guys. It's a great honor to be here.
Coach Wiggins, yeah, we already did our
Okay,
introductions.
my name is Mahala Wiggins, born and raised Queens, New York. Been a strength and conditioning coach for a really long time. My last stint was at the University of Oklahoma as an assistant strength and conditioning coach. Just happy to be here and to talk about whatever we're going to talk about.
I love it. I love it. I will say before we get into some Q&A type of stuff, I will say it's intriguing that as we planned this podcast today and I'm driving into the building, the news media is discussing the attempt of a possible assassination against former President Trump. And since that has happened today, and it's kind of hot in the news right now, I honestly would like to go around the room and see what the group thinks about number one, the first attempted assassination, and then another attempted assassination today. And before we go around the room, I will tell you, for me, I think it's disgusting and it's completely unprofessional at so many levels when those that don't support him think that it's funny or something to admire or cheer. At the end of the day, as much as politics is what it is, from a guy who's done 10 deployments to the Middle East, death is nothing you should wish upon anybody, especially because of political views. So for me, it's honestly sad that we have Americans that think that that's okay. So I would love to go around the room a little bit, and feel free to jump in and kind of give your point of view on the prior assassination and then what happened today, please.
I mean, me personally, I think it is sad. I think that I did not expect it, to be quite honest. I always thought that, when he left office, somebody was going to try to take him out. That was just my opinion. It was a matter of time of somebody was going to try to attempt to do that, and then have someone try to do it again. And then you hear all these stories about, okay, well, the Secret Service, they were not on their job, and the police officers were not doing this. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of information that are slowly coming out that are either true or not true, but it all looks really bad because we're not protecting someone who was our president, and is still the former president, and the person that's running for president. We're not doing our job to protect and serve him. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. You can't pick and choose who you are going to serve if you put on the badge.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
Yeah.
All right, so 2020, right before I came on Defining Moments with you, I actually had an opportunity to meet President Trump as he's coming off the plane in Tulsa, Oklahoma for one of his rallies. This is right before the pandemic became a thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it was becoming a thing. And the amount of hate and anger at me for showing up, and it just happened to be on the front of the Tulsa World after I met him, and I'm right there on the far left-hand side of that picture. It was miserable. I mean, it was absolutely awful the way I was treated after that happened, after I met with him and just ended up in a picture with him. And that was the first time I really experienced the amount of hate that there actually is for him specifically. But really what that is that's the hate towards the ideas that conservatives have been pushing for such a long time, and what conservatives tend to stand for.
Mm-hmm.
And what he did was he decided to actually go do what he said he was going to do. And because of that, putting conservatives on the court, all the things that he said he was going to do before he's elected that he came and did, has caused where we are now because of the reaction from the Democrats and from the left. They talk about his rhetoric, but let's talk about the Democratic rhetoric and the way they talk about him, the way they speak about him, the way they react to things that he does. And so not surprised at all that it happened. What I am surprised by is the fact that the reaction from the left wasn't a real opportunity to kind of bring us back to a point where we were more at a calm discussion level. And I thought they would try that because Trump did. I think he really did for a moment try that. But when the left didn't respond the same way, he went right back the way where he is comfortable, which is an attack mode. So, I mean, that was the surprising part. I thought they would try to utilize the situation to kind of bring us back to the center on our conversation levels and the tone and the rhetoric, and it just didn't happen. That's the most frustrating part.
Yeah, I agree with you gentlemen about the fact that I'm not surprised that it happened twice now. And the red hat, Make America Great Again, the slogan that he ran with in 2016 or 15, 16, and still Make America Great once again in 2024. Make America Great Again, there's nothing wrong with that slogan. It's how can we make America great again? How can we make it great? How can we keep it great? That's the question, right? Whether it's through service for your country, whether it's service through your community, whether it's service and leadership through coaching, or maybe getting into politics at the local level and perhaps a national level. That's how you make America great again, being innovative. And yeah, I'm very disgusted. I actually had a conversation this past Christmas. We had a gathering of our neighbors, old neighbors, and one of them popped off, and she said, "Man, I just wish someone would shoot President Trump." And I looked at her, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?" I was like, "That's disgusting." I said, "Who would ask that?" And I wanted to leave, but my wife was like, "Hey, let's." She saw my blood was boiling. But who says that? I don't care who the president is. I don't care how much you don't like someone. President Biden's the president of the United States. He's our president right now. And that's facts.
Coach Wiggins.
I think it's ironic to me that those who complained about being intolerant are the most intolerant. And there's a lot of crying and complaining of, we don't like this man, we don't like this man, and your answer is to kill him or to try to kill him. And I don't care how much you dislike someone, for them to not wake up the next day, there shouldn't be that much hatred in your heart. It's just insane to me that someone would do that, or even hearing that story that someone would even like, I wish someone would shoot him. Like, what's going on in your head that you would think that's the course of action that should be taken?
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah, I obviously it was my question, but I again, people that have never been around death or have been in that position, they kind of spout up at the mouth, and it's very. I'm not really a guy that used the word offensive a lot, but it's very offensive and it's disgraceful. And I can tell you right now, there's been a lot of politicians I've never agreed with, but I did raise my right hand to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I will tell you this. Tomorrow, I put on my uniform and step in front of a bullet for President Biden because he's our sitting president, and I would never wish death upon him or anybody in his family. And I truly believe deep down in my soul that our administration has done a ton of things that have hurt families. But I also know that my choice to serve means I don't get to choose who I want to serve. So, for me, again, it's honestly saddening that that's where we're at that place in our country. And but yeah, I appreciate you guys opening up about that. Well,
Yeah, I feel like being politically correct, too politically correct in a corporate atmosphere or in the gym or just with family, I feel like that hampers communication. And I like to get y'all's thought on, do you feel like the politically correct glass is too high and is it too thick to have a fun conversation and truthful and honest and open?
1,000%. I feel like, especially in today's day and age, if you're not for something, you're against it. There's no gray area. And that's how people think. So, for example, my faith, I'm Christian, right? And because I'm a Christian, if I don't support LGBTQ, then it's hate crimes and this and that and all these different things. It's like, and to be honest, I was having this conversation with someone earlier. I don't know the number, so I'm not going to throw numbers out there, but a lot of African Americans are Democrat, like, by birth, right? But when you look at what their values are, right? Like, oh, like you believe in Jesus, you're this, you're that. It's a lot of conservative views. So it's like, so you have conservative views, but you're a Democrat. Why? It's like, I don't even know. I was just kind of going this way. So I know me personally, I don't have a filter. I speak my mind. And because I speak my mind, no one has canceled me yet. I don't have a platform to be canceled, to be honest with you. But because I speak my mind, it's like, man, this guy's like very intolerant. And it's like, am I though? It's like, you don't want to hear what I have to say, but you want me to. So I think we are a little too PC. I think we don't allow ourselves to disagree and be okay with that. Instead, it's like, if you don't agree with me, then you need to die. And I'm just going to go this way. And it's not okay.
yeah, I completely agree. And I'm obviously, I speak my mind too. And my wife says I should have more empathy, but I do speak my mind. And I agree. I don't know where we got to this place where we can't just speak our mind, and it's almost like people don't want the truth because they have to be accountable to the truth, right? For example, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to offend people right off the bat. And clearly, don't flip it on me and say, well, if they have an illness and they're overweight or something like that, right? Like, if you're fat or overweight, like you're fat or overweight, right? If you have an illness that causes that, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is maybe the reason it's offensive to you when I say that is because you're not willing to do something about it, right? So sometimes we get offended when we're really not offended. We just don't want anybody to tell us, well, we need to do something to fix, right? And it's very odd to me because for me, I want somebody to tell me what my issues are, like which you have and you have and you have, because we're close, right? And I'll be completely honest with you. Like during this whole last couple of years, you know, and I'm not circling back to tolerance and President Trump getting shot, but if you notice when that attempt happened, conservatives didn't riot.
No.
I don't remember cities getting burned. I don't remember Lululemon getting trashed. I don't remember nice stores getting rioted. You know, and I sit back and I go, like, no, there was no riots, but yet we turned that into this conservative thing, and that's what he preaches. And no, it's not what he preaches. You know, the term fight is. You can spin into whatever you want to spin into, but the term fight means I almost got shot. Like I'm going to fight for this position to be the president. I'm going to fight to be the president, not go out and beat people up.
Right.
And that's, you know, people twist things into the agenda they want to twist things into. For me, I'm always going to speak from the heart. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I expect the same in return. And I will say something because Coach Wiggins brought it up. About the LGBTQ community and how it just hit us. I'll be honest with you. I am. Your business is your business in my world. Okay, I'll be totally honest with you. I don't have to agree with it, but I'm not going to hate you. Your business is your business. Homosexuality, LGBT, all that is your business. I don't care. Just keep my kids out of it.
Yeah.
Keep children out of it, right?
Yeah.
And that's my thing with it is you're 1% of the community, if not lower, but yet we can skew everything to get kids in a position where they're mutilating their bodies, and in some states we're taking away parent rights because kids need to do what they want to do at you can check that. Kids want to do what they want to do at the age of 7, which is ridiculous to me. And as parents, why would you take away our rights, right? So I'm sorry, I kind of went all over the place on that. But yeah, at the end of the day, you know, I firmly believe that we have to be completely honest about who we are. And we got to stop running away from the truth and start accepting it and being accountable for it. And then in turn, doing something about it. You know what I mean?
I agree. What do you think, Chief?
Well, one of my favorite pastors is John MacArthur, and one of my favorite things he says is, you know, people tell you to have an open mind. I say, close your mind, keep a closed mind. So believe the things you believe and protect the things that you believe in and things you need to protect. And I take that to another level. I'm willing to have a conversation with you, but I'm not going to let you change my mind on things that I know are true and factual and have never been anything other. When it comes to a boy being a boy and a little girl being a little girl, I'm not going to let you change my mind on those things, and I'll fight and stand for those things, right? So there's certain things that I think we must have a closed mind on and not keep an open mind to. But that doesn't mean you can't sit there and have a conversation with somebody. It doesn't mean you can't sit there and be cordial with one another and have a real open, honest debate or conversation about that. But you have to be willing to. You have to be willing to not get your feelings hurt when someone disagrees with you and not have your feelings hurt when someone says something that you don't believe in. But if you're not willing to do that, it makes everything a lot more difficult. And I think that's where we are right now. When you talk about everything being politically correct and everyone being upset and hurt over every little thing that's said, how about you just believe what you believe, be willing to talk about what you believe in, and be willing to hear other people when they say things you disagree with. And you can fight for the things that you believe are true.
Love it.
And you don't have to get hurt over it.
Yeah.
Or throw a fit over it.
Well, that's what I agree with everything because, you know, back then when President Clinton was president and George Bush came through, there was a lot of debates about who President Clinton was and if he's going to be a better president than George Bush. People were having those type of debates because it was considered like a normal thing. You fast forward to today, society has made these people of America one-sided. You either this way or you either that way. There is no in between. And if you like some of the views, some of the things that President Trump has to say, and you're a Democrat, then you're no longer a Democrat. You know, and I don't understand that part. There are some things that I felt that President Barack Obama did that I thought was good, but that doesn't mean that I'm a Democrat. That doesn't mean that, okay, I'm going to flip over there. And I grew up in a Democratic household.
Yeah.
Just like Mahala said, a lot of black families are Democrats just by who we are and in the message that we are getting from society. But they are pushing that agenda too far, and they're pushing that agenda too hard. Oh, if you're black, then you should vote Democrat. No, that's not the case. If I'm going to vote who I feel is going to give me the best chance to live and not have to feel like I'm in poverty every day. I'm gonna vote for the best person who is going to make sure that I can rest easy at night, knowing that the security of America is being watched over. I'm gonna vote for the person who I feel that is doing what's in my best interest or what's in my family's best interest. Not that is something that they can cross out on their list.
Yeah.
Now, do I think that there's a lot of corruption on both sides? Yes. But the reality is, I can honestly say that, but I'm still going to choose who I feel that's going to be the best person for the United States.
Do you and Coach? I apologize. I'm and if I cross the line, I'm good if you say you don't want to answer. But like, I find it. First of all, I respect you a ton and your stance, and I consider you a best friend and a brother, real talk, because we've done some things together that have been awesome. Now, you played at OU, you played in the NFL, you grew up in Texas, right? Mm-hmm. And then now you have a biracial family,
Yes,
right? And did growing up, because your wife is white and because your beautiful kids are biracial, did you feel like that? I don't want to say hated, but you were looked at differently because of that?
100%. 100%. I mean, I was looked at differently by a lot of people in my family. When my kids go to school, they were looked at differently because of, who they were. And, a lot of people don't see that. So I grew up in a small town in Texas where racism was out there, and it was almost like normal. Like, you knew in the towns that we grew up in that you were going to come across racist people. I mean, I had a kid call me the N-word to my face in 5th grade. But that was normal for us. But to see my kids go through it, that right there was an eye-opener, because I've never had the experience of watching somebody else go through what I went through.
Right.
Now, I know why I went through it, because I'm black. But they're going through it from a whole nother level.
Right.
Okay, well, your dad is black, but your mom is white, so you're maybe, and these are just opinion, answers. You may be an abomination, or something like that. It's you either white or you either black, you either Hispanic. There is no in between with some people. And there was a time where Tyson experienced racism, and I tried to help him and warn him. Okay, this is what you're gonna get if you allow people to relax and say and do things a certain way around you, and you don't check them on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, we live, we learn, and we try to, make sure that those same things don't happen again, or we're more prepared for when those things happen, so we have a better response.
Yeah, totally get that. I'm always curious, Chief Justin, And by the way, is Chief
That's fine. with me.
acceptable? Okay, okay. You know, like you're a part of a community and your heritage that is like truly the backbone of the grass and dirt of this country. Like, I hate to be like, you have an argument, right? Like, there's a lot of people that don't have an argument, but like, you're a part of a race and an ethnic group that have been through complete takeover, right? And however far you go back, what is your take on that? On growing up, where you've grown up and have you dealt with racism at that aspect? And I know you were going to bring up race, so have you dealt with that?
He took it from you.
I did.
No, so I grew up very much separated from that heritage.
Okay.
So my dad kept us away from a lot of it, and mostly because my dad's half white, half Indian, and so that makes me a quarter Indian, right? In fact, when I was elected chief of the Sac Fox Nation, I was the first eighth. So I'm an eighth Sac and Fox and eighth Seminole. And so I was the first eighth ever elected chief of my tribe. In fact, when I was born, I couldn't even be on the roll of our tribe. I wasn't even considered a citizen of the Sac and Fox Nation when I was born because they hadn't yet changed it to where an eighths could be a part. So I dealt with it from actually inside the tribe against me being part white.
Yeah.
And I had to remind them I'm not even European white, I'm Irish white, right? So like, it's funny to me that, and in fact, I mean, some American Indian tribes had, slaves as well, right? That were indentured servants, some of them were white people. And so we had this conversation. In fact, some of them would call me that, white chief, or, it was very interesting to kind of deal with it from that side. But, it just never really bothered me, because the fact that I was even elected was a big deal.
Yeah, dude.
I mean, I was the first Christian ever elected chief of my tribe.
Wow.
First Republican ever elected chief of my tribe, and which is just strange. In fact, I believe at the time I was the only Republican out of 575 something tribes in the country. I was the only Republican tribal leader, executive leader.
I was going to say that's a very democratic liberal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Right.
Okay. So you.
So I think I felt more from inside the actual tribe because of how I aligned and my own personal heritage, not from within the Sac and Fox community itself. So I think that's probably more where I felt it from. But I learned a lot about my people. I continue to learn a lot about my people, and I appreciate that. But no, I never really experienced it from the outside. Of course, I also don't look it, right? So it's not surprising that I don't look Indian.
Right.
So it's not surprising that I didn't really experience it growing up. But it also wasn't surprising that I experienced it after I was elected chief too, from within my own tribe.
Yeah, I mean, that's super intriguing to me. In fact, when Wong told me about you, like that's the first thing I thought of was like how did he navigate that as a conservative Republican in the tribe?
Right.
From what I've heard now, I'm completely uneducated about it, so I'm not going to speak to it, but that did intrigue me.
Nope.
And I am curious, Wong, your parents were immigrants, and by the way, your mom and dad are complete fucking rock stars, bro. Like, I love them so much. Like, I don't even, I've met them, but I haven't, like, they're just great. Like, Vietnamese immigrants come to this country. They don't make excuses. They don't ask for anything from the government. They just work their ass off. And they raise you and your family here. And they just walk, like, they're always happy. They don't complain, right? At least what I see, right?
Yeah.
And what about you, like, from that Asian community? Because your wife is white, Caucasian, right?
Yep. Yep.
And how did you feel about that? Because I'll be honest with you, like, we'll get to me, but my mom was like, "You can't find a Vietnamese girl." And I was like, I'm not biased. I'm just, what happens. But anyway, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'll tie this in. So to touch up on the being politically too correct and the glass being tall and the glass being thick is I was in corporate America for close to 17 years. And I worked with a bunch of white guys, right? In the engineering world, accounting world, etc. And the groups I've always in, I was like, man, look, I see you guys 8-9 hours a day. And if we can't have fun and if we can't crack jokes, dude, it's going to be hell. And I remember some of the conversations I've had. The first guy that interviewed me in 2006, he's like, "Do we have the right guy or do we have the Wong guy?" And I started laughing. There's a bunch of white dudes. I was like, "Dude, this is funny." So I started laughing. He started laughing. They all started laughing. Got the job. And I know it wasn't because of my name. It's because maybe I firmly believe I interviewed well. I interviewed well. I gave good answers. I had a good sense of humor.
So you weren't a DEI hire yourself?
No,
That's where I thought this was
in
going.
2006, it was unfashionable. I mean, if you talk about DI, they're like, "What the frack is that?" Right? But the thing is, I go into these groups of men that I work with and women, some of them, and I crack a joke. It's like, "Hey, the reason why I'm in here is it because I'm Asian? Is it because I'm good at math? But I'm not the stereotypical Asian because I don't drive a rice top Honda. I drive Jeeps." Right? So it's fun to just.
But you're not offended.
I'm not
if me and him were like, "Oh, you're good at math," you're not offended by
I was
that.
like, "Man, you know what? I am because my mom." I
That's what I'm
guarantee you.
saying. But it's funny, right?
It's hilarious. Yeah, I've been called a Twinkie before. Yellow on the outside, white on the inside. I think that's hilarious. I mean, but we should have fun like that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Real quick is a story before I left the corporate world. I had to go do a training as this white guy. And so I told one of my colleagues, who is also white, that's a thing. And I walk in there and it's like, "Hey man, I'm going to start talking to this guy in Vietnamese and you're going to just be my translator. So whatever I say, you just translate how you want." So I walk in there, start speaking Vietnamese to this guy and he's deer in the headlights look. And then my colleague's like, "Oh, hey, this is Wong. He's here to train you about Aries and blah, blah, blah." It was hilarious. We both laughed. And to this day, that story's still told. But then that's the way the world should work, right? Racism, no. My parents, of course, were immigrants off of a boat, and they got rescued by 3 couples from a refugee camp in Arkansas to Guthrie, Oklahoma. And those 3 couples happen to be white. Imagine that. 3 white couples, right? And then my parents go and mow yards in Nichols Hills to a bunch of white people. And those white people invited my brother and I into their homes to play with their kids while my parents were mowing. So not only did they pay my parents to mow, they invited my brother and I in to the air-conditioned house. They brought food to my parents to eat. So we grew up off Southeast 36 or Southeast 25th and High Avenue. It's kind of, we call it the hood. We in a 2-car converted garage. I remember living in that. So, you know, I never experienced racism. My parents didn't want us to really kind of hang out with Asian communities, so they moved us to Moore, and I guess to acclimate us to just society.
Yeah, and that's really intriguing. I actually have some stories about that myself, but I want to go to Coach Wiggins because it while we're on topic, you grew up in Queens, New York, and you always stress Queens. By the way, you don't just say New York; you stress Queens. but you grew up in Queens, New York. Your name is Mahala, and you were there during 9/11, right? So I'll kind of take us through as we're talking about race and how that kind of hit you. Take us through, you know, how that stereotype kind of was.
Okay, so being Mahala during 9/11 was rough. I got a lot of random TSA searches when I flew. Always had to stand in the yellow footprints. I remember being 15. I was 14 when 9/11 happened, and I was in a car with 2 or 3 of my friends, and a group of undercover cops pulled up to us. We were outside. I had just left my apartment building. We were about to go to everything like Krispy Kreme, little fat kids. And
you going to Krispy Kreme is not a shocker, but
and these undercover cops, remind me, 15 years old, pull up and they said, let me see some IDs. So give my ID. And he said, "Mahala." He said, "Are you Muslim?" And I was like, "No, sir." He's like, "Are you sure you're not Muslim?" I'm 15 years old, and I was like, "I'm pretty sure I'm not Muslim." But now I'm questioning, but I said, "What's going on?" And I had a good friend of mine, Anwar, who was half Guyanese, half Afghanistan, and couldn't go to school for a while because, like, threats, like, it's like, "Oh, you're a terrorist," and everything like that. And just because, like, it's like the day before, everyone was cool with him. The next day, it was like, "You're a terrorist, we're going to kill your family." And it was like, what the hell is going on? But yeah, New York I love it. That was definitely a difficult time for me and all my brothers and sisters because we all have those kind of names. And but just the thought of day one being okay, the next day like you're not, and you have to kind of look over your shoulders like, am I gonna like someone gonna punch me in the face because like they think I'm Muslim or it's the craziest thing in the world.
But your story tells me, if I didn't know you, that you have every reason, based on the narrative, to hate the Republican Party, to hate white people, to hate the conservative movement. You should dislike that group of people, and you don't. Why?
To be honest, a lot of that negativity didn't come from that group of people.
Yeah,
So it was the craziest thing, right? It was like some of like my friends and stuff that was like it came from because New York's a very blue state. It came from like New Yorkers, like get out of here, and it was like, wait a minute now, like like what happened to this tolerance thing?
Yeah.
But so I haven't seen personally like growing up. It was always like Republicans are racist, Republicans are this and that's like. Being black, you hear these stories, so like you're like, oh, I'm just gonna be a Democrat. It's like Republicans don't like black people. It's like, but that's not the case. It's like in this, as I got older and became more educated, I'm not saying that Democrats are uneducated, but as I started to become more educated, started like doing research, I was like, wait a minute. Like I started to truly see how things were going, and then I started to be able to paint a picture and say, a lot of my views, probably 95% of my views, actually align conservative. It's like, so why am I a Democrat? And it didn't make sense to me. And I think I was a Democrat because I'm from New York, so it's blue and everyone around you is blue. But the older I got, the more I started to think about it, and it was like, why am I believing this stuff over here? Because I was told to. I'm going to go this way.
Yeah, I feel like that's the case with a lot of people. Is we live in this fact check world but fact checking anything is based on where you got the fact from, right? Which is unfortunate. And, I am an immigrant. Some people can see the half of me, but a lot of people can't. A lot of people just think I'm mixed. I've actually had people think I'm a Native American born in Vietnam. And I, for 50 years, I never got it. Like for honestly, 50 years, I never got it. I was like, when the administration exited Afghanistan and those people were running at the C5, my mom called me, and this is just a couple of years ago, obviously, and she said, hey, like that was us. Like your dad had you in his arms like a football. You were one, holding your sister's hand, running to a C-130. And like that's how we left Vietnam. And for 50 years of my life, I never got it. And that image made my mom call me and say like that's who you were, you know what I'm saying? And that exit from Vietnam. But growing up, Vietnam is where I was born, but my home was Hawaii. So we made our way to Hawaii because honestly, my mom felt like a mixed white and Asian family made sense in Hawaii. It just made sense, right? And it does. Like there's so much diversity in Hawaii that everybody's everybody. But I do recall, and this gets into, I'm gonna dig into the victimhood mentality just a little bit. I recall being in 8th grade and I kind of played the middle. Like I didn't play the middle. I was kind of in the middle. Like the white kids were like, yo, and the Hawaiian kids were like, yo. And, every once in a while, one of the Hawaiian kids would be like, haole, which is basically, it's supposed to be foreigner, but it really means white boy, right? Yeah. And I remember in 8th grade, like big Hawaiian kid, I mean big, like offensive line big, right, was messing with me. And I would walk away and after school, bro, he'd beat my ass. I'm not gonna lie. It was straight fight. It wasn't bullying. It was two 8th graders and he whooped my ass. And he played the white boy card, right? And I remember going home, and in Hawaii, you get on the city bus, by the way. There ain't no yellow bus. Like I had never seen a yellow bus till I came to the mainland. You pay a quarter and you get on the city bus, right? And I remember I had a cut right here. I was jacked up. I get home and I'm a victim at this point, right? Because I'm half white and my mom, Vietnamese mom, looks at me in the face and she goes, "Stop being weak." She's like, "Stop being weak. Tomorrow, if he's bigger than you, you grab a stick and wait for him. And if you get it suspended, I talk to the principal." Just like that. Just like that. No kidding. And my mom was not, "I'm going to call the principal. You got bullied." My mom was like, "Handle your shit." Like, handle your business. You're a grown ass. You're an eighth grader. He's an eighth grader. Handle your business. And I remember like Friday after school, bro, I had a stick. Man, I hit this dude in the thigh. He looked at me like, nah, man. hey, but here's the thing. I got a couple licks in. I came home. I was kind of jacked. But here's the funny part. My mom was like, good, stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not calling the principal. Stand up for yourself. But here's the thing. Monday morning, I go to school, and big Hawaiian kid looked at me. He goes, brother, we good? No, I'm serious. Because he respected me, dude. And he never called me Holly, white boy. He's like, brother. To the point where, like, as school went on and somebody else said something, he had my back. He was almost like he wanted to see if I was going to handle my business, even if it, but that was my mom. Because in today's society, mom's calling to school, mom's playing the bully card. I'm not saying kids don't get bullied. Don't flip this on me, okay? But that's what's happening. It's on Facebook. We're calling the superintendent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, man, sometimes two boys in 8th grade fight. Like, sometimes it's okay. Like, I'm not condoning fighting, but sometimes stupid stuff happens, right? And she refused, she's a Vietnamese woman that comes to this country. My dad is an American soldier who died of alcoholism. And we lived in a 1-bedroom shithole in Hawaii in an apartment. We walked to school. She worked multiple jobs to the point we didn't see her for weeks. And she never made an excuse. She never said, what about me? She never said the government's not doing enough. She said, get your ass up. You're going to wear the clothes I buy you. And you're going to wear the shoes I buy you. And then on Christmas, we're going to save up for really nice shoes, right? But that's the way we live. And at no point was she like, you're a victim. You deserve more. No point. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, that was ingrained in me. And your parents are Vietnamese, and I feel like that was kind of the culture. The Vietnamese culture is very strong from don't make excuses.
Yeah.
Just go to work. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And staying on topic of the victimhood mentality is obviously, the story about my parents and the immigrants. In 2020, it was probably April, May-ish, and the whole China virus was on the news, etc. And so I drove to my parents' house. I always go visit them at least once a day each week. And I asked my dad, like, hey, so what do you guys think about this virus? And in Vietnamese, my dad was on my right, my mom's on my left, and it was just dead silent. And my dad in Vietnamese says, I translate, we were on a boat, we were dodging bullets, and people were dying of hunger. And my mom just looked at him. And I said, that's all I need to know. So think about that. And taking this to the school level, is my first language I spoke was Vietnamese at home. I spoke it, wrote it, read it. And first grade teacher, Mrs. Brown, this is at Wheeler Elementary, she apologizes to my mom. She's like, Mrs. Lamb, I'm so sorry we don't have a Vietnamese translator. And my mom, in broken English, I can still hear this, she says, Wang didn't come here to learn how to speak Vietnamese. He came here to learn math and science and to read and to speak better English. That's what she said. There's no need translator. And to this day, my mom gets pissed when she has to hit 1 for English or 2 for Spanish. Because you live in America. And she gets, to this day, just last week, she had the conversation with me. She's like, why do I have to press 1 for English? It's like, it's a good question, Mom.
It's a great question.
Really, just kind of like what you said, if you align yourself with victims, you at the end of the day end up becoming a victim yourself. I said this probably 10 years ago before social media really got like booming, right? I said that the internet's going to start raising our kids. When Facebook came out, when Twitter came out, I said the internet's going to start raising our kids because they're going to be so consumed with what everybody's talking about, what the next trend is, well, who's wearing this, and who's listening to this, who's playing this song, and things like that. And then X came out, Instagram came out, TikTok came out. And the thing about it is now there is a lot of hidden messages that are now coming to full circle and they're coming to light that these kids are like, oh, okay, let me go down this path because this is what they're telling me to do. And the internet is telling our kids, you are a victim.
No,
The
completely.
internet is telling our kids, you don't have to be this type of person because that's how your parents were, who your grandparents were. You can live the easy life. You know, you can be rich in a matter of seconds. Just follow me. That's what they're believing in. I mean, my kids today, I mean, they want to be rich now. They don't want to work for it. They want to be rich now. How can I get rich now? And so they fall into the victimhood of, oh, work is too hard now. I can't work 8 hours at Target because my feet hurt or I get a headache every time I stand up for a certain amount of hours.
Yeah.
You know, these are the things that our kids are talking about.
Yeah, no doubt.
Now, are they going to talk about this at home? No, because they're too locked away in their rooms, talking to their friends on the other line, you know, that are 20 miles away, or talking to somebody that's in another country. Those are their friends. They don't get out,
Yeah.
and they don't talk to people face to face like what we used to. You know, when we grew up, if you were in the house, you were working. If you were outside, nobody knew where you were.
Sure.
We were 7 miles away. Now, we can't even force our kids to go outside because they're too consumed with what is the easiest thing for them to do. And so, I truly believe that if we can get our kids away from the internet to have them open their eyes and look at what is right there in front of them, what is real, and have them decide of, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is not what I want to do, then I truly believe that society will be much better off.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I think to add to that point, I don't know if this is off topic, but it creates an entitled society. What happens is, and this kind of goes along with leadership, right? I don't know if I'm close to it. This kind of goes along with leadership of deserved versus earned. And I can't stand the word deserved because deserved to me is entitlement, right? It's like, I deserve this. You have a kid who graduates college and it's like, I deserve an $80,000 job, but you have zero experience. You don't deserve that. How about you earn your way to this position, right?
Yeah, you preach.
But yeah, so you got this degree, great. So now you're eligible for this job,
Right.
but you didn't earn this. And so whenever, like what you were saying about social media, it's like social media's telling these kids like, you deserve better. So they won't take this job at Brahms because they feel like I'm above this job.
Right.
I need this job instead. And then other people get a job, then people complain about it. So
Yeah, I mean, yes, you're all over that. I will say, I probably won't disagree with you much, but I will say that's why we're here, so we can have an educated conversation and disagree. I'm a fan of public schools.
Sure. Okay.
Me, Coach Wiggins, and Coach Wilkerson have been a part of a private school system. Most recently, that hurt me to my soul.
Yeah.
Because they use the umbrella of a Christian school, but the staff and president were not Christian-like, and we tried to change the narrative and set a standard. So I know my kids grew up in public schools. My daughter went to public schools. Jimmy coaches at a fantastic public school. You know, for me, and by the way, I respect your opinion to the core. I think the problem is not school system, although our schools are making tremendous mistakes in some of the things they do. And I hate to do this because when one teacher does something ridiculous, we turn it into this huge school system problem when that teacher shouldn't have done, you know, it's kind of like police, right? The police force doesn't all suck. That police officer's bad, right? So I don't want to turn this into a thing about the school system, but for me, to me, the problem is parents and it's parenting, right? And I posted something on Facebook the other day and my wife's like, oh, you just want that reaction. Oh my God, right? And what I posted was, weak-minded boys come from weak-minded men.
Mm-hmm.
And I firmly believe that. And I think children see how their parents act. Children see when their parents say rude things. Children see when their parents make comments, and they repeat that and they walk with that, right? And we are in this rush society that even in my game that Coach Wilkerson and Coach Wiggins are a part of, football, it's like parents want their kids to start as freshmen or they're going to transfer when they don't even know what that means, to be honest with you. And the other thing is they don't care about the other 85 kids on the football team. As long as their kid's starting, they could care less about the other kids on the football team. And I've never understood that because, you know, when you rush kids, you put them in environments that can be worse for them. Like, be patient, right? And you know, so for me, I wish parents would get a grasp of their kids and discipline them, teach them moral values and standards. It hurts me to my soul, and I mean this out of respect for the parents that say it. When a parent sends me a text message and tells them they're so grateful for me because I coached their kid right and mentored him right. And the reason it hurts me to my soul is because that's a standard for me. And I'm not special, by the way. What I'm trying to say is there was a time when coaches and teachers and adults, it was a standard for them to treat young people that way and to discipline them and to talk, you know, and it's not a standard anymore. When you find a coach or a teacher that does things right, it's almost like, oh man, I can't believe that, right? Because it's no longer a standard. Like opening the door for a young lady used to be a standard. It's not a standard anymore because we're in such a rush, right? We don't care who's behind us, even if it's an old person. And, you know, so for me, I would like to see the adults in this country grasp a hold of their children and say, you know, my boys are going to act the way I brought them up. And, you know, I joke all the time, and no, I'm not offending China. I joke. I'm like, in my house, it was like China. It wasn't a democracy. You didn't get a vote. Like, in my house, you didn't get a vote. You're going to act the way you're supposed to act. And you're not, at 8 years old, you don't get to make decisions. Like, that's not how it works. I'm the adult in the house. And we don't have adults in the house anymore. We befriend our children. Like, yeah, hey, let's go to the movies together and let's talk about your girlfriend and boyfriend and let's be friends. I don't want to discipline you. I want to be your friend. No, that's not how it works. We're not the same, right? Children and adults are not the same, right? There's a structure and figurehead. It's like the military. You know, you don't get to talk until you gain that respect so you can talk. And I think we've lost that. We used to have it, by the way.
We did used to have it.
We used to have it.
We have lost it. And the reason why we lost it is because society has given our kids a certain amount of power over parents. Now, I will say this, and you guys know me a lot. If you disrespect my wife, if you disrespect my daughter, I'm gonna be all up in your face because that's who I am. All my boys know it. All my boys know it. Don't raise your voice.
Yeah.
Don't try to pump your chest up in front of my wife or my daughter because I grew up respect your mom, respect your sister, respect all women, right? Just like you said, you hold the door for a young lady or you open your door for your daughter or your wife, to let them in the car first. Society says you don't have to do that. As much as we as men, and I'm talking about men like us, strong men, as much as we teach and we tell them and we show them this is how you treat a woman, society says you don't need to treat a woman that way. So they're going to hear what we have to say in-house, but they're going to listen to what society says outside of house. And society is becoming a lot stronger. It's like we're the heroes, trying to be the hero of our household and try to, have our sons and daughters grow up the way we know that they should grow up.
Yeah.
But society, the evil villain, says, no, come around the corner. This is fun stuff over here. We're going to do it this way. Forget what your parents say. Forget what your dad says. Don't watch him.
Yeah.
Watch this. Watch what we do on this show. So we are, yes, in some households, given where they are in the U.S. or around the country, in some households, that's how it is. They're raised in a certain way to where they're growing up, they're going to grow up and they're going to respect their moms, they're going to respect their sisters, respect their wives. But the majority of society, especially in the U.S., are growing up to what society is telling them how to, and showing them how to grow up. No matter how much we want them to grow up the way we grew up, society is pulling them a certain way. And at the end of the day, we're kind of fighting a losing battle, as frustrating as it is. So I agree with you 100%, but I'm also going to be like, yeah, I'm fighting my kids and society at the same time.